Greetings to all my YouTube subscribers and thank you for all your shares, likes and comments. When there is going to be like inquiries asking for the next video, it is really motivating for any YouTuber to give more videos. So similarly, this video is going to be on physics behind the Stampede. We are all aware of the crowd disaster that happened at Karur when actor Vijay had come for his political campaigning, only to see the actor, there were lots of crowd being they were behaving in very non-unanimous way, kind of a cascading effect. And there is a very, if it is a unison behavior inside the crowd, this could have actually stopped. But usually in a crowd, when there is a fall, when there is a stampede, there is lot of pressure being increased. The velocity and density in the crowd is going to be behaving in a varying manner. There is no uniformity in the velocity with respect to time and the density with respect to space or whatever. So because of this, what happens is there is an uncontrollable kind of a fall, and people behind the fall also tend to be pushed forward, and they all tend to, it's like a chain reaction. It's like a surgical wave that actually arises from the actual fall of few people. Then slowly this fall keeps continuing and people keep falling and they get collected like a pile. So when there is a crowd being behaving this way, and there is nothing can control them, and there are various factors involved because of this crowd stampede. One is the pressure. The distance between the people becomes so much decreased that you have a frictional force being developed between person to person, creating a lot of high pressure. So the pressure is a main factor here, and because of the pressure and the stress, you have a cyclic chain reaction that the fall keeps continuing from one center area to the outer circumference. Basically, this is termed as called as a black hole effect. This black hole effect was actually because of a professor in ETA Zurich. He's in social sciences field. He had actually studied on this crowd dynamics. So he had written a research paper in 2014 in crowd dynamics where he has mentioned on this black hole effect. Black hole effect is nothing but when you have a crowd, when you have a lot of people behaving, moving in unison or not moving in unison. Initially, when 1 square feet area is containing only 2 to 3 people, then there is lot of distance between them, that their movement will not be a friction to the next person. So there is always like something called as a very spontaneous oscillation in this setup. But slowly when people come, the inflow of people becomes huge, and lot of people come inside the crowd, and then because of their inflow, in 1 square feet area, when you have 5 to 6 people standing together and moving, then you have the actual fall, because the distance between the persons becomes so decreased that their frictional force acting between the person to person actually spreads across, and when the movement is not going to be in unison, you tend to have a fall. In a crowd, when in center area or in any area, when there is a fall, there is a void being created. Void means an empty space. You know how a black hole is. So you have a black hole, then there is a null effect there in the void. So when there is an empty space created because of a person falling, you will have lot of forces for the people from behind to go and to get pushed and fall into the same person, because you will not have any opposite forces acting. You will have forces from behind only pushing all the people, that they lose their equilibrium also. In physics we say, when you have a base, okay, the center of gravity always should fall within the base, and that makes a person to be in stability. So when one person falls, the surrounding areas, the persons will lose their stability, their equilibrium position, they tend to lose, and then they tend to fall over the same person. So because of that, this will actually like continue. It is a cascading effect. It is like a surgical wave. So from one area where you have the contraction and the stress happen, the pressure being created, and this keeps spreading. So this black hole effect was studied by the professor, social sciences professor at ETA Zurich, which I said his name is Dirk Helbing. Professor Dirk Helbing, in his papers, he said that this can be termed as a black hole effect. So he said, when like a black hole, you have a hole, empty space created, and because of that one fall, you have series of other falls, and people tend to fall over, and all the persons lying on the ground, and you have pile of people falling on over them above and above, so they have the suffocation, they you have the breathing difficulty, and because of the weight they will not be able to tolerate, and this creates even a death. Following the Helbing's concept, then you have a professor there in India. His name is Ashish Verma in civil engineering department, working in IICE. So he had given a report, a very detailed report over 300 pages after the mass crowd in the Kumbh Mela in 2016 at Ujjain. So there, whatever happened, he has given a very detailed report. He had mentioned that there is a physics concept here, something called as a linear conservation of momentum. So we say the energy before collision is equal to energy after collision. This is the law of conservation of momentum. So the momentum is conserved. So the product of mass and velocity, when you have your huge mass and the velocity of your movement, the speed of your movement, this both had to be like balanced. It should be balanced before the fall or any collision and after the collision, something like Newton's third law of motion. So rather, you cannot, when somebody is pushing you, the same force you give them back, you can push them, then there is a stable equilibrium. But this can happen only for smaller crowds. When you have massive crowds, it is something beyond your balancing levels. So there are factors like psychological dependency is here, and there is a lot of the incidental accidents happen here, and you cannot predict completely the behavior of a crowd. So that is actually a serious concern, that the crowd disaster management is a special study where people are understanding the control of crowd. So when in his report, Verma had clearly mentioned, so in his lab, the transportation lab at civil engineering at IIC, he had equated that just like fluid dynamics, this crowd dynamics also works. In a fluid dynamics, you have different fluid molecules. So how the molecules are all evenly packed up, closely packed up to each other, and how they move, when they all, how in fluid dynamics you have the fluids moving in same velocity, speed, and there is a very very closed intact of molecules that move in a rhythmic pattern. Similarly, this fluid dynamics can be applied to the crowd dynamics, where people should move in a rhythmic pattern and nothing stops them or halts them or disrupts them. When there is no disruption, then everything falls in place. But we cannot analyze the situation because they are all incidental accidents, that there can be some people inflow from various ends, and you can have again a very unexpected psychological behavior of people, that they tend to push or move at a greater speeds and velocities, then you cannot control them. Then all these several factors leads to this kind of fall. This is actually explained in this fluid dynamics also. So Professor Verma had actually equated the crowd dynamics and the fluid dynamics, and he had explained on this linear conservation of momentum that happens in such crowd behavior. All this can be only controlled because we need to have a proper planning. So especially Helbin also had actually, after understanding the Hajj crowd and the Hajj Yatra, he had designed certain barricades, the robust barricades, and only certain amount of people, not exceeding 5 people in per square meter distance. In fact, 3 to 4 is the safest. So he said we can also derive to the fifth person, provided the square meter area is this kind of airy and ventilated and all that. So apart from this, he has given the entry and the exit points, how the entry points to be, and to control everywhere all the other gates. So such kind of planning and designing is very much essential to eradicate such such accidents even in Bangalore M Chidambaram Stadium. So after you had this kind of stampede, so how several people died and 47 people were injured. Only after that the there is a lot of attention towards managing this crowd. So such hazards to be prevented in future, and well planning to be executed in the beginning itself. This is the entire physics behind the crowd stampede. And I will say, with all the safety measures being taken, let government seriously think of the proper planning and execution when there is going to be a lot of crowd and mass crowd being accumulated for every any temple religious events or political events or any celebration events. Such kind of hazards to be prevented in future. With this note, I sign off. Thank you so much for viewing my video. I wish all of you will actually give me the comments and feedback in the box below. Thank you so much.